last week are not necessarily here today, but we will. You see, Honorable Vessels, consistency is something you must do every time, over and over again. Every Thursday morning at 8:30, if that was the decision. Are there any apologies?
The House Chair will receive the following apologies. Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Chief Whip of the Majority Party, Dr. Korenov, Honorable Papo, Honorable Swart, and Honorable Sheikh Imam. Mr. Tasso is also not here.
Thank you very much. We are aware that the Honorable Speaker is on an official visit to Azerbaijan, and she's accompanied by Mr. Tasso, and I know the Honorable Kwankwa is also part of that delegation. And the Deputy Speaker apologized because he traveled to Johannesburg this morning for a memorial service and also a funeral that is taking place. Are there any other apologies, Honorable Vessels?
Thank you, House Chairperson. Just an apology for Dr. Mulder, please.
Thank you. Any further apologies? None. We will now consider the agenda. The agenda is the agenda that is usually followed in the meeting. Is there any additional item that you want to add to the agenda? Yes, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Chair. Could we add or discuss the application or implementation of Rule 130 somewhere?
Can you just briefly explain what it entails, Honourable Member?
Or
What exactly
Rule
is it?
130 is the rule around debates of urgent national importance. I have one that's approved.
Yes, I've
It's
seen
not
that.
programmed. We had the grey listing one, which was obviously happened in February, but was only debated in May.
Okay. Now, we'll do that under item 7, the draft parliamentary program. Thank you for that. Can I get a member to move for the adoption of this agenda? Honorable Asoma, is there a seconder? Honorable Boroto, the agenda is adopted. We will now look at the minutes of the meeting of the 11th of May. Can we go page by page, please? The minutes were distributed. That's page 1, page 2. Let's check for correctness. You can scroll further down. Page 3. There, Honorable Aaron, the debate was mentioned, the snap debate that was forwarded to the office. Can we go further down, please? Committee section report. Page 4. Page 5. The report from the Bowes office, the consideration of the draft program. Page 6. And page 7. Thank you. Honourable members, there's the minutes of the previous meeting. We will first check for correctness. Are there any corrections that you want to bring to our attention that is not reflected or incorrectly captured in the minutes? There's no corrections. Can I then ask for a person who was present in that meeting to move for the adoption? The Honourable Asoma, seconded by? Thank you. Not the Honourable Kwagube. It's the Deputy Chief Whip of the DA. Honourable Lottery to second him. Yeah. Thank you. Are there any matters arising? As I've indicated, the issue of the Honourable Aaron will be dealt with under item number 7. Are there any matters arising?
Honourable House Chair, there are certain issues that were raised in that meeting, and we made a follow-up. One was the appointment of outstanding members on the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. The HEC has updated members about the appointment of Mr. Honorable D.M. Stock. Secondly, the issue on the status of reports on ethics and members' interests. We noticed that there were 4 last year that were under further business, and they lapsed at the end of the year. The one that was dealt with this year was the recent one. There are no other current ones that can immediately be scheduled. Also, the issue of the Zondo Commission report. The committee section report has updated its report on the matter, and I think they will speak to that. Thank you very much, sir.
Honourable members, are there any further matters arising? Honourable Boroto?
No, there are no matters arising. Just to rectify, I don't understand why we promote the word Zondo report. There is it should be captured correctly, especially when it goes to the documents. Thank you.
The Honourable Lakude?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning and morning to everyone in this house. Honorable Chairperson, I just want to confirm that indeed the vacancies in the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence have been filled with Honorable Makobela Mashele and Honorable Dihang Stock. Thanks.
There was a matter that was specifically raised. Honourable Singh, do you want to mention something?
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Good morning, everybody. You must look to the opposition side sometimes. You're only looking to that side. I'm with the administration.
The opposition have divided themselves. You are actually sitting alone that side.
Thank you. No, Chair, there's 2 issues. One is the extension on the maintenance of surviving spouse in terms of constitutional court. I know Advocate Van der Merwe was not here at the last meeting. I think just to tell us where we are with that, because it was a Concourt injunction. And the second one is the Committee on Public Protector, because we need to know how far we've gone on that one. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for raising. I wanted to raise the issue on the public protector. Parties can recall that 2 weeks ago the matter was brought. It was also discussed in the Chief Whip's Forum, and we need now to conclude it. There was a proposal for 11 members, and then there was the second proposal for the 11 members who have voting powers and another 14 that won't have any voting rights. Those are the 2 proposals. Are there any feedback from the Chief Whip's Forum if the matter has been concluded there, Honourable Deputy Chief Whip? Because we need to put it on the order paper for next week.
Right now, Honorable Chairperson, I don't have any information, but I'll follow it up. I was held up in meetings. Thanks.
Honourable Kwahube?
House Chair, I think one of what we did was we wrote a letter to indicate our preference. So I thought perhaps that's what the table was looking for. I think we'll be ready by next week if we continue like that.
Honourable Herron?
Yes, House Chair. The agreement at the Chief Whip's Forum was that parties could write by the 25th of May. But I see that we want to conclude this before the 25th of May. So can we just get that date cleared? Because we do want to make a written submission.
Are there any further comment? Honourable Singh?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, from my side, in the past, the IFP, Whippery, was responsible for coordinating all the other parties. But this time around, I sent the message to Honourable Kwankwa, who is responsible for a few members, and to Honourable Machau, who is responsible for another few of the parties, and the other parties have their own whips. So I don't think the table must look to us for any submission, and they must make their own submissions, and we will make ours. Thank you.
Honourable members, you will recall the first proposal was essentially the composition of a committee of parliament where the parties represented there. The second one is to accommodate the smaller parties. So if we don't receive any reply from the smaller parties, it will lead us to come to a certain conclusion. We cannot delay this process any longer. As I indicated at the time, the committee must meet, a chairperson must be elected, then they must consider a program, They must develop the advert. The advert must go out. The necessary time is prescribed, will be there for applicants to come in. After the applications are received, they need to sift through all those applications. Thereafter, a process of shortlisting will start. Then there's a process of vetting, and vetting takes time. And then thereafter, the interviews can be concluded. And then it must still go back to the House. So we are not going to give any additional time. The Honorable Heron mentioned in terms of what was written, but can we agree here, and it must be recorded like that we do get formal responses from parties by Monday afternoon, this coming Monday afternoon, and we will process then those responses that are there, and we will then communicate with the Office of the Chief Whip of the Majority Party so that the resolution can be finalized and so that it can appear on the order paper for next Thursday for consideration. Honourable Member.
Thank you very much, Honourable COC Chairperson, as well as colleagues. Chair, I would like to urge that all of us, we agree with your proposal. Reason being that this term is quite a very short term. We are busy with the budget votes. If we don't constitute this committee in this term, then there will be a spillover in terms of time, based on the programs that, the timelines and the targets that needs to be achieved by the committee. Then the deadline, as you said, that it has to be 80 seats and then to appear to the order paper on next week. And I fully support that. But also it's not because we're not sensitive and accommodative to other political parties, is that in any event, anything, nothing stops them. However, for this one, for communication in terms of getting invites and notices and all that, then the other issue was raised in that spirit. Other than that, I fully second and I move for the adoption of your proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Yes, thank you, Honourable Heron. Honourable members, we also need to keep in mind that whoever we nominate, that those members will have to be available during the constituency period, because most of the work will be done during the constituency period. Are there any other matters arising? Honourable
Can I
Roto?
just say, as a rider to that, we don't say Monday, we say the 22nd.
Monday, the 22nd by 4 p.m.
Thank you.
2023. 2023. So there's no confusion now. Thank you, Honourable Boroto. Honourable members, there were also a matter that was raised. And the way it was reported now by the NA table that certain reports that were referred to the Ethics Committee has lapsed. We actually need to interrogate that, because I have a different information at my disposal that some of the matters have been concluded and not necessarily lapsed. Lapsed means that there was no decision even taken on it, and there were decisions that were taken. What we need to clarify, and it's a matter that will go to the Rules Committee or Joint Rules Committee, is the report back mechanism from the Committee on Ethics and Members' Interests, simply to indicate that this is concluded, because the current code, what it does not do is, if there is no finding, nothing gets reported. But in the eyes of the public and of the political parties here, there was an issue that was reported against a certain member. And now we get the report, it has lapsed. It can create the wrong impression that it was either not dealt with, not concluded. So in preparation for the next Rules and Joint Rules Committee, we need to get clarity. We need we don't need details from the Ethics Committee because they operate under the code. But at least the Joint Rules Committee will need to understand on what is being concluded and what is still outstanding. We know we're finding somebody, it comes to the House, and the Speaker then deals with a sanction, right? But in terms of the process of the state capture report, I think it's important for record purposes that those things are recorded. Honourable members, we will then move to the Honourable Asoma.
My apology, Chair, on the same breath around Ethics Committee reports, it has come to my notice that there are reports that had to go before the House because there is a decision in the 5th Parliament, and they remain below the line. They never had a chance to be scheduled, and I would like to formally raise that one, that the front table just look at that and check and confirm what I'm saying, because it has just been verbally raised to me. It could be highly appreciated, notwithstanding that we did at this level requested that all committees must indicate through the chairs the issues that are below the line, but these ones, because it's the sixth administration, wouldn't have been there for the current chairpersons, but it's a spillover from the fifth parliament chair, which I think it has never been taken care of. Thank you.
Yeah. Honorable Boroto?
Thank you, Chair. I think these issues are very sensitive, and as you say, the public out there knows that there's something happening and there are no reports, and you're talking of lapse. And since it has to go to the joint committee, joint rules committee, we know that joint rules committee doesn't sit all the time, so we would appreciate if that meeting can be, done as soon as possible, just to deal with this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. In terms of the decision that was taken by the Joint Rules Committee anyway, and that meeting will have to be scheduled, you're absolutely correct, is that there must be quarterly reports coming in on the work that has been done by the different committees on the state capture report. And committees are currently busy compiling. I know yesterday SCOPA, for instance, also dealt with a matter, so they will report. So it should be part of that report, not necessarily included as to how the House chairpersons in both houses report on the committee work. The Ethics Committee can have a separate one, so that we don't violate the ethics code, so that that process, there must be transparency as to how that processes are going. Honourable members, I will now request Ms. Giba to deal with the committee section report.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chairperson. Good morning to all the members and all my colleagues. The report in front of you is as was circulated, and with your permission, Honourable House Chair, I will only focus on those slides where there are developments on. I will start my presentation on slide number 2. I wish to report here that there are 29 ordinary bills before the National Assembly committees. Then I move to slide number 12. On this slide, we are reporting that the Standing Committee on Finance has finalized the Municipal Fiscal Powers and Functions Amendment Bill, as well as the Financial Matters Amendment Bill. The next slide will be slide number 19. On this slide, we also wish to report that there are no further changes on this slide on the Committee on Section 194 inquiry. However, we have been updated that the committee applies for weekly meetings. So for each meeting, they will apply to the Honourable Chair for approval. Lastly, Honourable Chair, I want to report on slide number 23. Slide number 23 is just an indication of the work that has been done by the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence with regard to the implementation plan on the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into allegations of state capture. So that concludes my report, Honourable House Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Giba. Are there any questions of clarity or comment? There's none, but I would like to indicate to the Programming Committee that yesterday we had a joint committee of chairpersons of both houses, where we dealt with the issue of legislation that is in front of them. And some of those committees, and before we rise, we will have clarity. Some of those committees will have to ask for permission to meet during the constituency period as well. But we want the chief whips of parties to know that when Parliament rise, the National Assembly rise, specifically it will be these committees, so that they know the commitments that their members will be attached to. I must also indicate that we have started a process to review the current practice of public hearings that are taking place. The practice is it takes place in 9 provinces, 3 districts per province. And in a previous report to the Rules Committee, it was mentioned that the legislative process takes now a lot longer than previously. So we're busy interrogating that, and there is a process that we have decided upon, and you will be updated in terms of it. The costs associated with these public hearings, but not only that, the time involved. reports, more the time, has now exceeded what was really expected. And in certain instances, you do find that associated with it is a lot of difficulties and also other problems. For instance, in one of the public hearings, some of the community members that were transported to the public hearing was involved in a fatal accident and immediately brings responsibilities to Parliament. So we must see how we refine the process and still comply with the constitutional requirements, because public hearings is just one element of public participation, but you will be kept informed of the unfolding processes. I now want the report from the Bills Office to be presented.
Honourable
Good
Chair.
morning.
Honourable Chair. Mr. Floric.
My apologies, House Chairperson Tombela, I didn't see you.
Thank you very much. Now that you're speaking about public participation, I just want to be clear on public participation constitutes members of the public going to the public hearings and so on. And at times there are mishaps that happen, like it happened in the Free State, where people got an accident and some died and so on. I just want to understand the position of Parliament in that regard. Do we become responsible as Parliament to take care of funeral arrangements and all stuff like that? Or what is actually the position? Because I'm saying that so that we become consistent. Now that it has happened, it could happen in other provinces as well. And what would be our position? Thank you very much, Chair.
Without going into the details and discussing the events that happened there, I'm aware that Parliament provided assistance because it was in transport that was arranged by Parliament. So there was assistance that was provided, but we'll provide a report in the proper form so that all of us can understand exactly what happened, and it's part of the reason why we're reviewing processes. Honourable Soma.
Chair, and thanks, I'm being opportunistic because he opened the window for me. Chair, while we are reviewing the public participation approach and methods, if also can be looked at in terms of the pre-public participation sessions, that the communities, the Community Education Support Unit of Parliament, they must have some milestones so that we are able to also to assess whether they have done the work or not. Based on my experience, I think there's more work that needs to be done there, not to rely on political parties to educate and mobilize a public before we come for public participation. But nevertheless, it's a different session, but there's a lot that needs to be looked at. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Bills Office.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Good morning, Honourable Members and colleagues. Honourable Chair, Ms. Giba has already reported on the two bills that were reported on yesterday, the two finance bills, which is the Financial Matters Amendment Bill and also the Municipal Fiscal Powers and Function Amendment Bill. Those two bills are now on the order paper for consideration, which makes the number of bills that are on the order paper to be 7, not 5. They reported late last night. And again, Honourable Chair, we've got 29 bills before NA committees. One bill was introduced last week, which is the Merchant Shipping Bill, introduced SB 12 of 2023, a proposed Section 75 bill. The next slide, please, which is slide number 4. In slide number 4, Chair, we've got one bill that has been certified for introduction. The Bills Office is busy processing that bill to be introduced as soon as it is finished. And the next slide, which is the last one, is slide number 5. Slide number 5, we're reporting that the repeal of the Transkenyan Penal Code Bill was passed by Parliament and is to be sent for assent. In the second language of that bill, it's isiXhosa. Thank you. I'll hand over to my colleague to continue with our report. Thank you.
Thank you, and good morning, members. This is a report in respect of Constitutional Court judgments where there is a suspended order requiring Parliament to do something in respect of legislation. the slide itself only speaks to progress, so let me first just deal with that. In respect of the Sonke Gender Justice case, which deals with correctional services, we have received confirmation that the bill has in fact been approved by Cabinet, and the department is only awaiting certification by the Office of the State Law Advisor. So it seems that this is on track. The department has in fact done quite a lot to make sure that this happens. In respect of the Women's Legal Centre Trust, and I will also then here speak to the Bwanya case that Mr. Singh spoke of. The last time I reported, I indicated that we are a bit concerned. The time for Parliament to pass this legislation, the suspension of the order, lapses in June 2024. Now, there is no remedy. So if we do not make that time, there will be a gap in the law that the court required us to fix. The department initially indicated that there will be sufficient time for Parliament to consider this bill, but we've now seen a media report indicating that the department is only targeting Cabinet approval by March 2024. That simply does not leave enough time for Parliament. Our office has followed up with the departments to ask whether this report is correct, what is their target for introduction, are they planning to ask for an extension. We have highlighted the fact that next year is an election year, which also impacts on Parliament's program. And unfortunately, we're not getting a response. In the past, since I've last reported, I followed up twice and we've not received any response from the departments. And partly that's why I'm bringing this and stressing this here and asking for assistance, because we are concerned about that. In respect of the Bwanya case, because it also deals with marriage and the review of marriage laws, as this Women's Legal Centre Trust case does, there is a bill before Parliament, the Judicial Matters Amendment Bill. And that bill, in fact, exactly gives the read-in that the court gave. That is what the bill is proposing to be changed in the Act. The question was whether we need to approach the court for an extension, because that matter also expires in June. And in our report that accompanied this presentation, there's more information on this matter as well. But once that suspended order lapses in June, there will in fact be a read-in provision. What we have found in the past, there was another matter where the Department of Justice actually approached the Constitutional Court to ask for an extension, where there was a remedy after the date of the suspensive order. And the court simply said, no, we are not extending because there is a remedy in place. So we would not recommend that we ask the court for an extension. There is a remedy in place. The remedy, in fact, is exactly the same wording as Parliament will pass in the end. So there will, in practice, not be any difference in any event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Advocate Mbata, Advocate van der Merwe. Are there any comments, Honourable Singh?
No, thank you very much, and thank you for the report. Yeah, it's just on the Bwanya matter. I understand that June 2023 is the court deadline. And then whatever the court defined as a life partnership and as spouse will be part of the legislation. Am I right in that? Now, I have a bit of a problem because there is no definition in law of life partnership. What is a life partnership? Staying with somebody for 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, 20 days. And I'm saying this from my experience, so I'd just like the legal team to look into that as well and just advise us as lawmakers. How does one, or how does the court define a life partner for the purposes of inheriting from interstate or maintenance? And maybe next week they can tell us that. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Singh, and thank you for the report. You see, very often there's fingers pointed at Parliament, that Parliament is not doing X, Y, and Z, but these parliamentary processes are very dependent and reliant on the bill that came originally from the departments. And it involves, for the process to work, time-based response, and there we can see a number of inquiries has been made to the Department of Justice and Correctional Services. No response. Honourable Kwagube?
House Chair, I think it's going to be probably important for the Speaker to take this up with the Leader of Government Business, because I think, as Advocate Van der Merwe says, the reality is that the meeting of the deadline is incumbent on Parliament. And so I don't think we're going to be able to get to the deadline and say the department was uncooperative. So I think that the Speaker should take this up with the LOGB properly and quite sternly, so that we are not the ones who are painted as people who don't meet constitutional court deadlines. Thanks.
Honorable Barotto, did you have your hand up? And then followed by the Honorable Asoma.
Actually, I had withdrawn, but I just wanted to say that as Ms. Giver was talking about the introduction of bills, looking at this year, the time that we have here in Parliament is very short. And maybe sometimes we should be guided whether it's a Section 76 or Section 75, because if it's a 76, it becomes more problematic because the NCOP has got its own time that they have to also do their own public hearings. So we should be able to guide from this programming forum to say, no, as we asked before, to say we need to know, because this is the year that is not normal to other years. So we don't want to be blamed when now this bills lapse because of the time that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Asoma.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think the issues general of the bills and the bills coming and tabled before Parliament, we have been raising this issue that it becomes a challenge, notwithstanding even the bills that have got court dates in terms of their completion, that it then impacts negatively to Parliament as if we didn't do our work or we did a shoddy work. I will agree with my colleague that it's high time that we don't just voice our displeasure by just talking to ourselves. A letter that also will spell out the processes that ought to be undergone by Parliament, but also the taking thereof, because they're not the same in terms of the process and the implications, serious implications that it puts unnecessary pressure to the NCOP as well. Just to make sure, because I don't think they appreciate that part of it. Notwithstanding that the court also, when we defend ourselves or put our case on that without defending ourselves, but to say, and the courts must have that appreciation of how Parliament works in terms of deliberating on issues that they would have pronounced on, without disrespecting the courts, because we are here and we ever going to respect the courts. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, honourable members. The matter will be raised with the Speaker. I'm quite sure the Speaker will take it up with the Leader of Government Business. We now get to the draft parliamentary program to be presented by the Honourable Asoma.
No, thank you very much, Chair, and thanks so much for the opportunity. Now, okay, no, I still have got my right-hand man next to you there. If there are any technical questions that members would like to ask, through your permission, I will request that Mr. Mahlangu rise to the occasion as usual. Let's register, Chair, that yes, indeed, yesterday the program was presented before the Chief Whip's Forum. And there were no issues that we may bring to the notice of this meeting. Safe to say that there is no change in the program. It's still the same as what was presented. Safe to say, for highlight and completeness, Chair, we would like to raise 2 points. One is that, which was raised in the previous meeting, but for completeness, the consultation on scheduling of the SNAP debate requested by Honorable Mr. B. Heron, which is on failure of government to extradite persons implicated in the corruption as demonstrated by the recent case in the corruption, recent case in the United States, United Arab Emirates, which is UAE, and the consequences thereof have not been finalized. We did, Chair, we are repeating ourselves that we did register to this meeting that it must be noted that one, this quarter is short, but probably let me also deal with the weeks that we are in, Chair, so that I don't repeat myself. But to amplify the point that we did receive the letter from the Speaker for scheduling of the motion, the said motion, but it must be noted that week 15, which is this week, next week, this week, the 16th to the 19th of, is a mini plenaries on budget votes. Week 16 to from 22 May to 26 is the same as above. Week 17, which is it's more populated by vote 1 and vote 2, and a vote 1 debate and the reply by the president. Hence, there's no space. If you go to the 25th of May, we are going to populate the, let's go to 25th of May. We are going to populate the bills that from the finance committee that they've completed, which they've been, what do you call it, 80 seat last night, because they do have an impact in terms of the budget votes that we'll be doing in the coming week, which is week 18. So we are saying that we will in the so somebody doesn't like what I'm saying because I'm talking about the money bills. Chair, on a lighter note, back to be focused is that we will, as moving forward, having undergone due processes in terms of presenting the draft program in this meeting, that see whether is there any possibility in June. But also the principle of the House rising at 18:30 still stands. We'll try our level best to what you call it, to respect it. So that's the reason it's on the table all the time. We are seized with that matter, but unfortunately it seems like there's no space. But we'll try our level best, Chair, as we indicated last week. The second one that we'd like to highlight is the debate on topics from the external bodies, as well as international engagement, as they get finalized by the International Relations Unit, and they are 80 seats accordingly. They will be populated as we unfold with the program in the course of the year. Safe to say, Chair, it must be noted that some of the issues that probably any political party would wish any debate, we will endeavor to see the space where we can put it, unless we are directed otherwise. But Fridays, if you look at our program, it's all populated, so that's it, Chair. But we did agree through your good selves also that we are not going to also to blare the budget votes debate and also other business, because those ones we want to fast track them as expected legally and otherwise. Thank you very much, Chair.
Honorable Heron.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I mean, obviously, if my snap debate aside, I wanted to really speak about the application of the rule. If you read Rule 130, it conveys that the National Assembly will debate matters that arise that are urgent and of national importance. Throughout Rule 30, there's reference to urgency. There's reference to it must be a recent occurrence, and it surprised me when we had in May the debate about grey listing, because the grey listing took place in February. Now we had the snap debate that I requested the Speaker to consider. That arose from an event on the 11th of April, or my letter was the 11th of April. Now we can't find time in June. So the rule is there for the House to use to debate matters of national importance that are urgent, that require the proponent to satisfy the Speaker that it's a recent occurrence, it is of national importance, and it is urgent. But then the House doesn't deal with it in an urgent matter. And following the announcement that there would be this debate, there were legitimate questions from the media saying, this is urgent, but the House the programming committee is talking about sometime in June it may be debated. So where's the urgency? So either the Speaker must decide that matters are not all of national importance and so reduce the number of them, or we have to find time to debate them, because we can't have a rule that deals with urgent matters of recent occurrence, of national importance, that doesn't get implemented. Thank you.
Is there any further comment? Honorable Lottreet, then followed by the Honorable Dlakude.
Chairperson, yes, I want to agree with this because the operative word here is urgent. And regardless of the time that is allocated, if it is urgent, it is added over and above the rest of the program and not scheduled for when there would be time. So I think this is something that we honestly have to look at, and if it's urgent, it must be dealt with immediately within the next week or so. Thank you.
Honorable Dlakude.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. Indeed, the matter is urgent, as the rule is saying. But checking on the program, we have budget votes that we are currently dealing with. So I don't know if the honorable member is saying we must find time. I don't see it here because there are budget votes that are starting even at 10 o'clock. Unless if we say we want a sitting at 10 o'clock, a normal sitting before the budget vote, then we can we can request the programming technical team to look for that time. We are currently dealing with budget votes. So I have never seen in any way where we disrupt the agreed program of the budget vote to accommodate anything that is urgent, unless if we say we are cancelling the budget vote for a specific date, but that is highly impossible. Thank you.
The Honorable Singh.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think if we look hard enough, we'll find time. If you look at the vote one presidency, you note that we're going to finish after 8 that evening. So, I mean, those are exceptions. And on urgent matters, we should also find the time. But we must also realize that these are two separate issues. The issue of establishing whether the matter is urgent or not resides with the Speaker. Our responsibility as programming is once the Speaker says, yes, it's urgent, we must find the time. So I would also agree that let the programming technical team, I agree with the Honorable Dlakude, find time for this to happen. Thanks.
Honorable Kwahube.
I think I'm covered by Honorable Singh. I mean, because for instance, the grey listing debate was requested in February, and it took us until May to have it done. So I think, as Honorable Singh says, once the Speaker does deem something urgent, we then need to prioritize it as such. So I think Honorable Dlakude has given us a way forward to try and find time for the debate.
Now, what we will do is that we'll work with a technical team, since the Speaker has given the go-ahead for the matter to be debated, and then it will be reported back to the different political parties, so that it is correct, the interpretation of Rule 130. We cannot change that rule now. So it must simply be done once the Speaker says, but then we need to take into consideration all these other things that are there. And if it means that we sit longer one day and one evening, so be it. Then it needs to be done. But I think the general consensus is, the spirit is that it must be done. And the programming whip technical team will look into it and will revert to you in due course. Programming whip?
Thank you, Chair. Just for my clarity, is that the program is presented before the programming committee of the National Assembly is accepted. Then the other task that needs to be done by the technical committees and follow the due consultation processes will unfold. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, item number 8. Colin, is there any announcements?
Not from the table, Chair.
Not from the table. Any announcements, honorable members? Honorable members, it brings us then to the end of this meeting. Thank you very much for your presence and participation, and the meeting is now adjourned.